everybody. Not everybody knows that I am the author of Grace Notes, which has been a simple newsletter that I've mailed out now for 14 years. The very first Grace Note I ever wrote was called Live from the New Year's Cleanse. I found myself in Los Angeles with Byron Katie and a whole big audience of people. And Katie herself was up on stage with an empty chair next to her, and people could get in the chair and do the work. That very first Grace Note I ever wrote was called, Live from the Cleanse. And I was reflecting what I witnessed during that event. So I'm going to share a little bit of it with you right now. I say being there made me grateful again and again and again. I never dreamed that being happy and calm and clear and just peacefully enjoying an ordinary life was in any way possible. Not back in my past life when I was so unhappy and so confused and so twisted up inside about relationships and food and money, you name it, just about everything under the sun. And now, I say, I'm not. I do still get stressed about things. I want you to know that. But it's nothing like the old days, not even close. Now, it's like I've turned down the volume knob on pain and suffering so that I can just not even hardly hear it. Sometimes it gets louder, but I know what to do. It's called the work, or self-inquiry. So I wanted to share with you, remembering that, and I went on in that Grace Note to ask everybody, I say, here's something I think will be fun. Let's all share what you perceive as your top 10 most stressful thoughts. So I asked people to write in top 10 most stressful thoughts, or your top 3 stressful thoughts from 2011, which is what year it was. And I said, I'll post them over the next few weeks, and I'll let you know which seem to be the top ones. And I won't use names, of course. So that was fun to receive as many as I did, because it was so new to have this newsletter and Grace Notes that I was writing. And what I want to share with you all today is the process of the work. Now, many of you are completely familiar with it, but just in case you aren't, even if you are, let's just go through very slowly and very simply what it means to do self-inquiry in this particular format called the Work of Byron Katie. First question is, first you identify a stressful belief. Something like, she rejected me. First question, is it true? And you answer honestly, yes, it's true. That's why I said it. She rejected me. Second question, can you absolutely know this is true? Is it the absolute truth, no shadow of a doubt? Are you sure this is what happened, that she rejected you? You might answer yes again, but on reflection, sometimes you might, often I actually find, I don't know, not really. I know somebody said, go away, but I don't know if that means they rejected me. So it's very interesting to sit with that question for a while. Is it absolutely true, this thought that I'm having? Question 3, how do you react? What happens when you think this thought? Noticing all the feelings that you have inside, how you treat the other person, what kind of rumination goes on in your mind, repetitive thinking. Do you start to try to problem solve? We're noticing that in question 3, it looks like whatever happened out there in the world is the cause of my distress, my fear, my sadness, my upset, my pain. Question 4, who would you be without this thought? It's an amazing transformative question, but it should only come after the other 3. I find spending time with sort of defining the problem, noticing where the mind takes it. It's like Einstein's quote, if I had 1 hour to figure out a problem, I would spend 55 minutes just looking at it, examining, investigating, and then 5 minutes problem solving at the end. So, who would I be without my story that she rejected me? Or whatever it is the thought is that you've got. What if I wasn't able to think that? How would I be in the presence of this other person, or in the world where it looks like the world is the cause of my problems? Who would I be without that story, without that thought? Most of us are able to actually consider and use the imagination for seeing who we'd be with no thought here. Wow, what an interesting idea. Something happens where we'd feel relaxed, where you just go, wow, or neutral, or see things in a different way. And what is interesting to notice about that is then it makes it a little more clear. Is it the incident that happened, the circumstance, the traumatic moment, the exchange, that whatever people are doing out there in the world, whatever's happening in life or looking like it's going on in reality? Or is it my thoughts and perceptions about what is happening? It's always my thoughts and perceptions. They're the cause of my distress. Because we all know one person can see something with great distress, and another person can see that same thing with kind of a neutral heart. Somebody else might even see that same thing with joy. Who knows? We're not trying to force any kind of a emotional response to life here. It's just noticing, with the thought, suffering; without the thought, freedom. Taking my thoughts seriously, suffering; without thinking about it, freedom. And the very last step in the work is a process called finding turnarounds. So I insert myself into the original concept. She rejected me. How about I rejected me? My thinking rejected me. Could that be just as true? I sit and ponder and I find some examples. Another turnaround, I rejected her. Very interesting. What's my part? What did I do? Did I reject first? Who knows what happened there? I can find really kind of incredibly interesting things running in whatever incident that you think it is that you're needing to investigate. And the last turnaround is just the simple and complete opposite. She did not reject me. How could that be just as true? What if it was? There's something that is wonderful about finding your own answers in this process and using it as a very sincere meditation, a contemplation on these incidences of life that look like they bring suffering and hardship and pain. What if it wasn't the case? What if we could see things differently? Who would you be without your story? So that's, in a nutshell, the work of Byron Katie, and a simple form of self-inquiry. Self-inquiry has been used for centuries in the human condition to explore, investigate, understand what keeps us from peace. So, enjoy, try it out for yourself. We'll see you next time.